Have you ever noticed that the more you talk about your goals, the less you actually move? You share your plans, and somehow the fire fades. The clarity blurs. The energy that was meant for action leaks out into words, and suddenly, nothing happens. That's not just coincidence, it's psychological. When you tell people what you're going to do, you activate the ego. You feed on the reaction, and without realizing it, you start to feel rewarded before you've earned anything. The mind gets satisfied, and the drive dies quietly in the background. Carl Jung said, "What you make conscious gives you power. But when you give your vision away too early, you give them the power. Their doubt, their silence, their fake support. All of it enters your plan and corrupts it before it ever had the chance to breathe. If you want to win, stop announcing. Stop declaring. Stop asking for applause before you've built anything." The real ones move in silence. They let results speak. They let action reveal what words never could. And when the world finally sees it, it's already done. There's a hidden cost to speaking too early, one most people never notice until it's too late. You have an idea, a vision, something raw and alive inside you. And instead of building it quietly, you talk about it. You share it with friends. You post it online. You tell people, "I'm going to do this," or "I'm working on that." And for a moment, it feels good. You get a small dose of validation, a bit of attention, some feedback. But what you don't realize is this: you just spent energy, not on building, but on broadcasting. Every time you talk about what you're going to do, you trigger a release of dopamine. It tricks your brain into feeling like you've made progress, when in truth, you've done nothing. The mind rewards itself for simply saying the thing out loud, but that reward is dangerous, because it kills the urgency to act. You feel accomplished, but you're still at the starting line. You haven't moved. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what happens when you speak your plans before embodying them. You unconsciously drain the energy that was meant to forge action. You give form to something that wasn't ready to leave your mind. And once it's out, it becomes exposed, vulnerable, open to noise, doubt, judgment, and interference. When you speak too soon, you invite external influence into something that should still be internal. You hand over your direction to other people's opinions, energy, and expectations. And whether they support you or not, they've now entered the frame. Even their silence becomes a factor. Even their smile, that half-interested, distracted nod, registers in your nervous system as feedback, and your brain, always scanning for approval, adjusts accordingly. You start second-guessing. You lose the purity of your original vision. You reshape it slightly to make it more acceptable, more explainable, more realistic. And just like that, your power is diluted, not by force, but by permission. There's another layer to this. When you speak your plans, you unconsciously attach your identity to them. You say, "I'm going to write a book," or "I'm launching a business," or "I'm going to change." And suddenly, that plan becomes part of your self-image. Now, if you don't follow through, your ego takes a hit. You feel shame, you feel pressure, and not the good kind, not the pressure that builds diamonds, but the kind that crushes movement, the kind that makes you avoid the work, just so you don't have to face the fact that you spoke too soon and moved too little. Now your plan is not just a goal, it's a burden, and that's the trap. The more you talk, the more weight you create. The more you reveal, the more resistance you invite. You think you're building clarity, but you're actually building friction. Internal psychological friction that slows you down before you ever begin. Real momentum is quiet. It builds in the shadows. It grows in silence. The most dangerous people are the ones who say nothing and then suddenly move. They don't leak their ideas into the air. They plant them deep and let them take root in private. And by the time the world sees the result, it's too late to stop it. This is what you must understand. Your plan is sacred, and what is sacred must be protected, not explained, not displayed. Guard your vision like it's under construction. Because it is. Speak only in results. Share only in completion. Let your work introduce itself. And let your silence be the warning sign no one saw coming. Because when you stop speaking, the energy stays in your hands. The urgency stays alive. And the only thing left to do is build. In the next part, we'll dive into what happens when you move in silence, how private effort becomes public power, and why the most feared kind of success is the one no one saw coming. Discipline loses its power the moment it's performed. When you start showing people your progress too early, you're not just revealing the work, you're softening it. You turn the sharp edge of transformation into something social, something consumable. But real transformation isn't meant to be seen in progress. It's meant to shock in completion. There's a reason the most dangerous individuals say the least about what they're doing. They train in silence. They suffer in silence. They grow in silence. And that silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Because what they're building isn't meant to impress. It's meant to dominate. Your discipline becomes 10 times more potent when no one sees it. Because now you're no longer feeding the ego with compliments or applause. You're feeding only the fire inside. And that fire doesn't want to be clapped for. It wants to consume. It wants to build something so strong, so undeniable, that by the time it's revealed, no one can stop it. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." But the real question is this: who are you when no one is watching? What do you do when there's no one to perform for, no one to impress, no one to validate your effort? That's where the real power lives. Because the one who can suffer quietly, who can improve without sharing, who can wake up every day and build without anyone knowing, is the one who cannot be predicted and therefore cannot be controlled. When your effort is public, you make yourself trackable. They see your steps, they anticipate your moves, they prepare for your next phase. But when your effort is private, your power becomes invisible, unmapped, unreadable. And unreadable people are dangerous because no one knows what they're about to do until it's already done. Private discipline also protects you from self-sabotage. When no one sees your work, there's no pressure to prove anything. You don't need to update anyone. You don't need to keep up appearances. There's only you and the work. No noise, no image management, no distractions, just raw repetition, pure confrontation with your own limits. And it's in that space, that silent, uncomfortable, sacred space, that monsters are forged. You become sharper. You become colder, not emotionally, but strategically. You don't waste time explaining your routines, your systems, your grind. You don't seek recognition because you've already recognized yourself. And when that happens, when you finally stop needing anyone to see your discipline, your entire presence changes. You enter rooms differently. You don't announce. You don't overshare. You observe. You move with precision. You speak less. And when you do, people lean in. Not because of volume, but because of aura. Because discipline practiced in silence becomes confidence that doesn't need approval. It radiates, it creates tension, it commands. Others will notice something is different. They won't be able to name it. They'll say you seem more focused, more distant, more serious. But what they're sensing is a shift in orientation. You've stopped living outward, and now everything points inward, toward purpose, execution, outcome. Your results will speak, and speak violently, not in tone, but in impact. Because no one will have seen the process. They will only see the product. And that's what makes it undeniable. Don't give them updates. Don't show them the drafts. Don't ask for permission to begin. Go dark. Train privately. Build privately. Bleed privately. And when it's time, arrive fully formed. In the next section, we'll explore the psychology behind quiet confidence. Why people fear what they can't read, and how silence, when practiced with intention, becomes the most intimidating language in the room. Silence unsettles people in a way noise never can. When you stop sharing, when you stop offering explanations, when you go quiet without warning, The mind of the observer starts to fill the gap, and that's where the fear begins. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've stopped giving them control over the narrative. You've become unreadable. And in a world obsessed with predictability, nothing is more threatening than someone who no longer signals what they're about to do. We've been conditioned to over-communicate, to explain, to clarify, to make sure others feel safe in our presence. But when you break that pattern, when your movements become minimal, your words calculated, your reactions non-existent, you disrupt the dynamic. You remove the comfort of familiarity, and now, they don't know where they stand with you. That uncertainty is power.
Robert Greene wrote, "Always say less than necessary. The more you say, the more common you appear, and the less in control." Why? Because silence invites projection. People start imagining what you're thinking. They question what you're planning. They replay what they said to you last. The longer you remain quiet, the louder their inner voice becomes. And in that echo chamber, they face something they've avoided all along: themselves. Silence becomes the psychological mirror they never asked to look into. They begin to wonder if they upset you, if you're angry, if you're planning something. But the truth is far more unsettling. You're not thinking about them at all. You've simply shifted your attention inward, toward your craft, your peace, your next move. And that detachment, that absence of emotional signal, is what triggers panic. Because silence isn't passive, it's charged. It holds weight, especially when it comes from someone who used to overshare, over-explain, over-give. The sudden absence of your voice, your reactions, your updates, that absence hits like a vacuum. It creates discomfort, not because they miss you, but because they've lost access to the version of you that kept them emotionally safe. Now they're guessing, and guessing creates tension, and tension, when left unresolved, becomes fear. Fear of what you know, fear of what you've become, fear of what you might do next. And the most powerful part? You don't have to say a word. This is the paradox of silence. It feels empty, but it's full of consequence, full of possibility, full of psychological force. The more you withhold, the more power you project. Not because you're manipulating, but because you're mastering. You've stopped leaking energy. You've stopped performing vulnerability. And people can sense the change. It's primal. It's chemical. It's undeniable. In silence, you become undefined. And what is undefined is uncontrollable. You're no longer telling them what to think about you. You're letting them wonder, letting them wrestle, letting them replay the last thing you said and wonder if they missed something. You're no longer speaking in words. You're speaking in tension. And people fear tension they can't resolve. Some will call you distant. Some will call you arrogant. But none of that matters. Because what they're really saying is, I can't read you anymore. And that unreadability is your shield, your leverage, your armor. It protects your time. It protects your focus. And most importantly, it protects your power, because nothing can be used against you if nothing has been said. Let them guess. Let them assume. Let them spin stories in the silence. You've earned the right to be still. You've earned the right to stop performing. And now you hold the most intimidating position in any room. You know exactly who you are, and no one else does. In the next part, we'll bring your movement into full force. You'll see how to stop announcing progress and start revealing impact, and how to let your success speak so loudly you never have to say a word again. There's a kind of statement that doesn't need words, a kind of arrival that doesn't need applause, and a kind of dominance that doesn't need to be explained. It's called execution. And once you enter that realm, once your focus shifts fully from speaking to doing, you become untouchable. Because when results appear without announcements, people don't just notice, they pause. They recalculate everything they thought they knew about you, the assumptions, the labels, the quiet dismissal. All of it collapses the moment your results walk into the room before you do. You didn't warn them. You didn't broadcast your transformation. You simply disappeared and came back with something undeniable. Not louder, just real, just finished. And that kind of presence, that finished presence, commands a level of respect words can never buy. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And this is where the shift becomes permanent, when you no longer introduce your work with promises, but with presence. When your discipline has shaped something so complete, so sharp, that others have to adjust to you, not because you demanded it, but because your outcome leaves no room for negotiation. People will pretend they're not impressed. Some will act like they expected it all along. But beneath the surface, they're spiraling, because the version of you they thought they could predict no longer exists. The one who used to announce plans is gone. The one who used to seek encouragement has vanished. In their place is someone silent, focused, and already finished. And now they wonder, what else are you working on? What else don't we know? What's coming next? And will we see it in time? That's the effect of letting results speak. They echo louder than any declaration. They hit deeper than any speech. And they leave a residue, a tension that doesn't fade. Because the work is done, the transformation is visible, and the silence that surrounded it now feels strategic. Let that be your method. Speak less, reveal later, deliver fully. If you're building something, protect it like a secret. If you're becoming someone, let them find out in real time. Don't feed them previews. Don't offer spoilers. Let their first reaction be shock. Let their second be silence. Let their third be respect. Because in a world where everyone talks, the one who delivers without warning holds the power. The one who doesn't need to speak is the one they can't stop talking about. They'll ask how you did it, where you went, what changed, but you won't answer. Not because you're hiding, but because you've moved beyond explanation. You no longer owe anyone access to your process, only to your presence. And that presence, quiet, focused, complete, becomes your voice. No captions, no declarations, no breakdowns, just work, just sharpness, just finished results that walk into rooms and do what your words never could, change the temperature. In the final section, we seal the transformation. You'll discover why those who never announce their moves only appear with proof, command the kind of respect that can't be reversed. There's a kind of power no one sees coming. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't hint or tease. It just arrives. And when it does, everything around it shifts. The mood changes. The energy tightens. The room gets quieter. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. Something just entered that cannot be ignored. That's what you become when you stop announcing. When you stop warning people of your growth, your moves, your vision. You stop playing on their timeline. You stop seeking their eyes. You become invisible in process and undeniable in presence. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." Let them underestimate you. Let them assume your silence means weakness. Let them think your absence means defeat. That illusion is your armor. Their miscalculation is your weapon, because while they mock in noise, you refine in silence. You don't give clues, you don't leak signals, you train in private, you bleed in solitude, you fall and rise and crawl forward without a single audience. And then, when the world least expects it, you appear, not to prove something, but to embody something that doesn't need proof. And when you do arrive, fully formed, fully prepared, they won't know how to react. The version of you they rehearsed in their mind doesn't fit anymore. You're colder, calmer, sharper, not defensive, but detached, not angry, just finished. And that posture alone becomes your dominance. You don't ask for respect. You become someone it's dangerous to disrespect. People will try to pretend they saw it coming, that they knew all along. But their silence during your process already told you everything. Let them keep their words. You've graduated from that currency. Your silence is your language now. Your movement is your message. Your life, not your mouth, is the only announcement you'll ever need. This is the final law. Say nothing. Build everything. Arrive without warning. The ones who warn are still hoping to be stopped. The ones who announce are still hoping to be admired. But you've left that phase. You've entered the rare category of people who move with full intent, total clarity, and no need for applause. The ones who don't post their plans, don't narrate their every step, don't ask to be understood, because they've already decided to win. And when they arrive, there's nothing left to explain. No questions to answer, no room for doubt, only silence, followed by shock, followed by the quiet sound of every opinion being rewritten in real time. You don't tell them who you are. You show up and make it obvious. You don't argue for your worth. You walk in and shift the hierarchy. You don't explain your absence. You return and let the outcome speak. That's the new standard. Not performance, not promise, just arrival. And when you finally walk into that moment, there will be no music, no speech, no warning, just impact, just presence, just silence, echoing louder than you ever have. You don't need to talk, you don't need to warn, you don't need to ask. But if this spoke to the part of you that's done explaining, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, not because you're told to, because you're ready to move in silence and let the rest of the world feel the echo.